There are moments in life that don't announce themselves. No loud signs, no dramatic entrances, no warning, just a quiet shift. And somehow, without proof or explanation, you feel it, like something is changing somewhere. And today, that feeling isn't random, because right now at this exact moment, someone you share a deep connection with is standing at a turning point. Not a chaotic or confusing one, but a clear one. This isn't about fantasy or wishful thinking. This is about what happens when a person can no longer ignore what's real. When distractions stop working. When silence stops helping. When running stops feeling like freedom. And for them, that moment is happening now. You may not see it yet. Maybe there's distance between you. Maybe there's been silence. Maybe things ended in a way that didn't make sense. And from your side, it feels like nothing is moving. But beneath the surface, everything is. Because turning points don't happen out loud. They happen in quiet rooms late at night, in moments when there's no one left to impress and no one left to convince. Just truth. And that's where they are right now, facing something they avoided before. Not because they didn't care, but because they weren't ready. They're replaying moments, conversations, silences, the way you showed up even when it wasn't easy, the way you stayed grounded when things felt uncertain, the way your presence felt different from everything else in their life. And now what's changing is they're no longer asking, was it real? Now they're asking, why did it feel like nothing else ever has? Because something about you didn't fade even when they tried to move on, even when life distracted them, even when time passed, that connection didn't disappear. It waited, and now they're starting to understand why. This is the part no one talks about. The part where a person realizes they didn't lose you because it didn't matter. They lost you because they weren't ready to meet you where you stood, and that realization changes everything. Because now they're not the same person they were back then. They've grown. They've seen what doesn't work. They've felt what's empty. They've experienced connections that looked right but didn't feel right. And every road somehow led them back to the memory of you, not in a dramatic or desperate way, but in a clear way. They're starting to see the difference between comfort and connection, attention and meaning, temporary and real. And for the first time, they're not running from that clarity. They're leaning into it, because here's the truth about turning points. They don't force you to act, they force you to decide. And right now a decision is forming inside them, not rushed, not emotional, not reactive, but intentional. They're beginning to understand something they couldn't see before, that what you shared was never ordinary, and more importantly, it wasn't replaceable. You weren't just someone who passed through their life. You were someone who shifted it, someone who challenged them to grow, to be honest, to face parts of themselves they used to avoid. And that kind of connection doesn't disappear. It waits until both people are ready. And that's where this story changes, because this isn't just about them anymore. This is about alignment. While they were going through their process, you were going through yours. You were learning boundaries, learning patience, learning what you deserve and what you don't. You were becoming stronger, quieter, clearer. So now this isn't about going back to what was. This is about stepping into something new from a completely different place. And that's why this moment matters, because when someone reaches a true turning point, they don't come back the same. They come back with clarity, with intention, with understanding. And the next time they step toward you, it won't feel confusing. It will feel different, because this time they're not questioning what they feel. They're preparing to act on it. And this is only the beginning. Right now, something deeper is unfolding within them, not loud or obvious, but steady and undeniable. A shift that has been building quietly over time is finally reaching the surface, and what once felt confusing to them is now starting to make sense in a way they can no longer ignore. They are beginning to recognize the pattern. Every attempt to move forward without you felt incomplete. Every distraction eventually faded. Every connection that wasn't you lacked something they couldn't quite explain before, but now clearly understand. It wasn't just about chemistry or timing, it was about alignment. And that realization is becoming stronger with each passing day. They are no longer running from the truth. They are sitting with it, processing it, allowing it to reshape the way they see everything, especially you. And what surprises them the most is not the feeling itself, but the consistency of it. How no matter how much time passed or how far they tried to distance themselves, the connection remained steady, present, quietly waiting in the background of their life. And now that they are finally still enough to face it, they can see it clearly. You were never just a moment. You were a turning point, and that understanding is shifting something fundamental inside them. They are starting to take responsibility, not just for what they feel, but for what they didn't do before. The words they didn't say, the effort they didn't give, the clarity they didn't offer. And instead of pushing that awareness away like they once would have, they are allowing it to guide them. Because now they understand that avoiding something real doesn't make it disappear. It only delays the moment it returns with even greater clarity, and that moment has arrived. They are no longer questioning whether this connection matters. They are questioning why they ever doubted it in the first place, and that question is leading them toward a deeper truth, that what they felt with you was not something they can recreate somewhere else. It wasn't situational. It wasn't temporary. It was something rooted in who they are becoming, and that realization is changing the way they think about their future. Because now when they imagine moving forward, they don't see a version of their life where you are missing. That absence feels wrong to them in a way it never did before, and that feeling is pushing them toward action. Not rushed or impulsive action, but intentional movement. They are beginning to think about what it would look like to reach out, not just casually but meaningfully, not just to reconnect, but to rebuild something stronger, something more honest, something that reflects the growth they have gone through. And this is where everything begins to shift from internal to external. Because once a person reaches this level of clarity, staying silent no longer feels like an option. It starts to feel like a loss, and they are no longer willing to risk losing something that now feels essential to their path. They are realizing that timing is not about waiting for everything to be perfect. It is about recognizing when something is real and choosing it despite the uncertainty. And for the first time, they are ready to make that choice. They are preparing themselves emotionally, mentally, even quietly rehearsing what they would say if given the chance. Not from a place of fear, but from a place of sincerity, because they want to show up differently this time. They want their actions to match their feelings, their words to carry truth instead of hesitation, and that intention is what makes this turning point so powerful. It is no longer just about realization, it is about readiness. And as this readiness builds inside them, the distance between you is no longer just physical or situational. It is something that is actively closing, not in a rushed or overwhelming way, but in a steady, natural progression. And you may begin to feel it before anything actually happens. A subtle shift in energy, a sense of calm where there was once uncertainty, a quiet knowing that something is about to change. And that feeling is not coincidence. It is alignment taking shape. Because when two people reach the same level of clarity, even separately, something begins to draw them back together. And that is exactly what is happening here. They are stepping out of who they used to be and into someone who is capable of choosing you fully, not halfway, not with doubt, but with intention. And as they move closer to acting on that decision, the next moment between you becomes more significant than anything that came before, because it will not carry the same confusion. It will carry understanding. It will carry growth. And most importantly, it will carry truth. And when that moment arrives, it will not feel like something new. It will feel like something that was always meant to happen, finally finding its way into reality. Now everything is beginning to move from quiet realization into undeniable momentum. And what was once only felt internally is starting to shape the way they think, the way they see you, and the way they see their future. Because this is the stage where clarity transforms into decision and decision transforms into action. and they can feel that shift happening within them more strongly than ever before. There was a moment recently, small and almost unnoticeable, when everything inside them settled into certainty. Not a loud breakthrough, not an emotional rush, but a calm, grounded knowing that they can no longer pretend this connection is something ordinary. And that moment changed the direction of their thoughts completely. Because now, instead of asking themselves if they should reach out, they are asking themselves how to do it in a way that reflects who they have become. They are thinking about honesty, about vulnerability, about showing up in a way that feels real instead of guarded, and that alone marks a transformation. Because the version of them that once hesitated is no longer in control. They have stepped beyond that version, beyond the fear of being misunderstood, beyond the fear of rejection, and into a space where truth feels more important than protection. And that is why this turning point is so powerful. Because it is not driven by emotion alone. It is supported by growth, by reflection, by a deeper understanding of what truly matters. And what matters to them now is no longer convenience or comfort. It is connection. It is authenticity. It is the rare kind of bond that challenges them to be more than they were before. And they have come to accept that you represent that bond in a way no one else has. Every memory they revisit now carries a different weight. Not nostalgia, not regret, but clarity. They see the meaning in the moments they once overlooked. They understand the value of your presence in ways they could not before. And that understanding is creating a sense of urgency within them. Not a rushed urgency, but a meaningful one. The kind that comes when someone realizes that waiting too long could cost them something irreplaceable, and they are no longer willing to take that risk. They are beginning to release the last of their hesitation. The final layers of doubt that once kept them still are dissolving, and in their place is a quiet confidence that feels unfamiliar but right, because it is rooted in truth. And as this confidence builds, so does their readiness to step forward. They are imagining the moment they reach out, not with fear, but with intention, not with uncertainty, but with clarity. They are preparing themselves to speak in a way that aligns with everything they have realized, and this preparation is not something temporary. It is something that reflects a permanent shift in how they approach you and this connection. They no longer want to keep things undefined. They no longer want to leave things unsaid. They understand now that real connections require courage, and for the first time they are ready to offer that courage without holding back. And as they move closer to that moment, something else is happening at the same time. Your energy is aligning with theirs in a way that cannot be forced or faked. The distance that once felt heavy is becoming lighter. The silence that once felt confusing is becoming meaningful, as if both of you are approaching the same point from different directions. And that is what makes this phase so significant, because it is no longer about one person realizing the truth. It is about both of you being ready to experience it in a new way. And when that alignment fully meets, when their decision becomes action and your readiness meets their intention, the moment